everybody, Tony D and Little Joan with a hot take on the whole Epstein thing. My God, this thing never ends. Just goes deeper and deeper and deeper. Now, I'm no expert on the subject. I've read some things. If you want to get the deeper dives, you should check with Tim Pool. We Are Change does a lot of stuff on the whole Epstein thing. They actually went to the island. The guy from We Are Change, Luke, actually went to the secret island, whatever you want to call it, the Pedo Island, I guess they were calling it, Lolita Island, and walked around there. He didn't really see anything, but it's just kind of interesting. You know, you can kind of just see the place. I mean, it was a tropical island. It really was. But the revelations that came out today, and this is just my summation on it, is one of the women who was, I guess she was underage at the time and on the island and having sex with all these powerful people, like her testimony has been released. And I believe this is from like 2015. So Bill Clinton is implicated pretty heavily, and Donald Trump is cleared, which is pretty amazing, because she set the record straight on Trump, because I think she was asked, or she wanted to set it straight or whatever, and said that Trump that wasn't true, that he didn't flirt with her, and he would never stay over because he had his own place in Florida. And whereas Bill, she said, actually went with two girls from New York and, was palling around. He would stay there. And I don't know if they have any direct testimony, because some of it's been redacted for reasons who knows why. But, they're saying that Epstein was, and Maxwell too, they were part of an elaborate blackmail scheme, and that they were either blackmailers for hire or independent, but working with various intelligence agencies, probably in the United States. Who knows? Who knows? I would think that if it wasn't the United States controlling this, they would have handled this differently. Epstein wouldn't have gotten away the first time. Despite, whatever. They don't mess around in the intelligence community. If you're a threat to them, they will effing kill you if they can. And Epstein was infinitely vulnerable. He was on an island, not in the United States. He was arrested. He was protected, though. That's the thing you got to take away from this. And I guess it was, it's either Poole or Luke, was saying that one of the prosecutors that Barr fired was the guy who was connected, loosely connected to Epstein, or may have had him killed, or looked the other way when he was killed, or something like that. I don't know. That's all conjecture based on some amount of evidence. But I look at it this way. This is my take on it, right? Part of the reason Trump is clear is because when you compare a guy like Trump to a guy like Clinton, right? Donald Trump was born rich. Bill Clinton wasn't. And there's a big difference there. Now, Trump, his dad, would say to him stuff like, we're rich. You got to watch out for people because people come for our money. That's what people do. And that's how rich people know that. That's why rich people tend to party with other rich people, because they quickly realize that people, when you're a millionaire and a billionaire, the people around you just naturally kind of go, whatever you want, sir, because they kind of want your money. It's hard to keep a friend. If you're a billionaire, it's hard to keep a friend who's like, still making $40K a year, because, you have all the time in the world if you're a billionaire and you're retired or whatever, or you live this fabulous lifestyle where it's like, oh, let me go to Paris today. I got a meeting and I can go to that place that makes the rolls and whatever. People who make $40K and are just getting by can't do that, and it's like, Hey, you want to come by and hang out? Says the billionaire, and your friend, who's just a normal guy, says, oh, I can't. I got to work tonight. Oh. And the billionaire could just give him some money and he could hang out with him whenever he wanted. And I think sometimes billionaires do that, or rich people do that, and that in the long run it kind of actually hurts the friendship, because then the friend kind of becomes dependent. You know what I mean? So in the case of Trump, he didn't have that problem. He was already used to being rich, and I think already very wary of other people, especially anybody who would pretend to give him money. Bill Clinton, on the other hand, was an ambitious guy. He became president, but he still didn't become rich. You know, I'm sure they made some money on the way, but understand you're not meant to become a billionaire or even a multi-millionaire if you're the president. You're meant to serve the public good. Yeah, you get some money, but you're not meant to be like fabulously wealthy because of that. Clinton wanted to be fabulously wealthy. He did. And let's be honest. And that kind of ambition stuck with, I think, both Clintons for their entire lives. And they didn't really achieve that very, very wealthiness until the Clinton Foundation, which came later. So along the ways, you're still hobnobbing it with billionaires and millionaires. And that's impressive to a guy like Bill Clinton. Whereas Trump, that's just a normal day at the office. So when a guy like Epstein offers Trump something, he's like, well, what do you want? You know, he's wary about it. And he doesn't really need anything, so, you know, what can Epstein offer him? Trump was banging porn stars. He doesn't need Epstein to get him girls. Bill Clinton, on the other hand, he didn't have the money. And Epstein did, apparently. It's hard to tell. So I think probably Clinton was just like, this guy has lots of money. I'm going to hang out with him because maybe there's something I could do for him and I'll make a lot of money. Or I want to live this lavish lifestyle. And if I'm hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein, using my fame to do that, I get to live on a tropical island for a few weeks. And, oh, he's got hot broads around him all the time. Now, do I think Bill Clinton bangs children because he's a pedophile? No. I think Epstein set most of these guys up. And here's the way I would think he would do it. He would get a bevy of girls, some underage who look older, and some of age who look younger. And that way you could totally muddy the waters. And if you wanted to get somebody, you just push the underage girls on him a little, you know, as much as you can. Understand that these guys operate at a high level. You can't just like walk up to the guy and say, hey, Bill, I'm Jeffrey Epstein. Want to bang this girl? She's a friend of mine. Like, you know, he had to schmooze the hell out of the Clintons and really impress them and lure them in. I mean, they don't do this in a week. This happened over many, many months until, you know, Clinton was convinced, oh, this guy's a billionaire. He's a great guy. I pal around with him all the time. We go places and we eat and we hang out and we party. And then slowly, like, he becomes his friend. And then, hey, why don't you come out to the island one time? Yeah, I've heard you talk about it. Yeah, it'd be great. And so-and-so will be there and so-and-so. So, like, he feels comfortable. Like, you know, because the pictures coming off the island are Clinton frolicking in the surf with Epstein and a few of his buddies. And it's like, oh, and there are other celebrities there too. Alan Dershowitz is here, and Prince Andrew is here. So it's kind of like creating an atmosphere where you feel safe. And he realizes that, oh, I'm safe here. I'm not a rich guy, but I'm palling around with these guys. They wouldn't screw me. But that's exactly what Epstein wanted to do. He wanted to set that sort of, you know, setting so he could screw these guys over. And I'm sure Bill Clinton banged like every girl on the island, simply because I'm sure Epstein would arrange it so that he could. But the only girls Epstein needed him to have sex with were the girls who were underage. And since he had the place already wired top to bottom with cameras, it was just a matter of time. Once he let down his guard, and he has no idea how old these girls are. And look, the girls, they're easy to manipulate because they're young. Not because they're women, because they're young. Young people are easier to manipulate, especially people who aren't adults, because they tend to listen to adults. They want to feel like they're older. I mean, you remember when you're a teenager, you want to be older. You want to be in the older crowd. And women are especially vulnerable to that, I think, because, they tend to date older guys. They tend to date up. They want to feel like their lives are, going places, and they're dating, guys who can do things for them and, can provide for them. That's sort of a natural biological thing rattling around in their brain. Guys of the same age, they'd just be like, oh, let's bang some hot chicks. Any hot chick would be fine for a guy because they're more visual. But for the women, it's like powerful men. That's an aphrodisiac. So, it wouldn't be that hard to arrange, especially if you got allegedly billions of dollars. I mean, Epstein was a billionaire. And once you have the girls, you set this up, you get them on tape, and you own them. I mean, you own them. Once you have sex tapes of powerful people with minors, you own those people. They're going to do anything in their power to keep you out of jail. Dershowitz was a powerful attorney. He tried to push things to keep Epstein. I don't think he worked for him directly, but he did try to do something with the age of consent in one state. And I'm sure he was giving him legal advice. Naturally, he would want to, because even if he didn't know Epstein had footage of him, even if Epstein hinted at it or said that he had it for other people, Dershowitz could have concluded, oh my God, he must have tape of me too. And even if he didn't know those girls were minors, and Epstein didn't tell him, I mean, in a blackmail scheme, you only have to tell your victim enough to get what you want from them. And in this case, Epstein wanted money. So, who knows what he told them. And who knows who he was working for and why they would target Dershowitz. Now, I could see why they'd target Bill Clinton, former president. He's got some secrets up in his head. Even years after being out of office, some of those secrets are very valuable. Yeah. And he certainly had connections and pull in the United States government. A few phone calls and you're in. So I have no doubt that he was blackmailing Clinton. I have no doubt that he was the primary objective. He's too big of a fish. If you're in a blackmail operation and you don't blackmail Bill Clinton and he comes to your island, you're doing it wrong. So I totally believe that he was the target. But again, I don't believe that Bill was necessarily like, oh, underage girls, let me in. I think he was lured in, and then, he just assumed all the girls were of age. And he probably saw Epstein messing around with him too and said, well, Epstein's messing around. Obviously, they must be of age or he wouldn't be touching them. But Epstein didn't care. That guy. So, this is looking pretty bad. So the only question is whether or not the establishment wants to throw a guy like Bill Clinton under the bus, because I'm sure he still has some pull. Certainly his wife's got some pull. That woman, she won't stop. Or is it the sort of thing where they're going to just sort of smear him and never release the full unredacted transcripts? The thing is, Bill Clinton's kind of up there. He's getting old. Every year he becomes less and less relevant to the current people. So that's the danger for him, is that he becomes irrelevant enough that they say, well, who cares? If Bill Clinton gets indicted, maybe that helps us. Maybe that helps the Republicans, that he finally gets indicted on something. Or can they even do it and not turn it into a total circus? I don't know. And again, I don't know if Clinton even knew what he was doing. And that's not a defense of him, but who knows? Who knows? You don't know. And until you get a hold of these tapes, if they even exist, or still exist, I should say. Who knows? And it might be down to what happens to Ghislaine Maxwell. If they put her head on the chopping block and they can't protect her, but they say, well, you're going to prison, but you'll be protected, she'll start singing like a canary to get out. And at that point, who knows what kind of deal they'll cut with her, if she's willing to give up powerful people who did these unspeakable crimes, then maybe that's worth something to mitigate her sentence. But it sounds like she had sex with some of these girls too, according to the transcripts. So I don't know how you reckon that. At that point, it's just like maybe you can cut a deal to give her a nicer prison sentence, like in terms of a nicer prison. But really, she should just clear her conscience and come forward. Not that someone like that necessarily has a conscience at all. But the other question is, too, who set up this operation? Was it the U.S. government that set it up, or did they stumble upon it and then start to use it? Or did only certain elements in the deep state use it? I don't know. That could go a lot of different ways. And if that's the case, that part of it will probably never, ever come to light.